Welcome to the Ruden Report podcast. I'm Dave Ruden, and we're coming into holiday weekend, finishing up the end of fall sports outside of football, and then getting ready for the holiday games and then the state playoffs. Joining me, as always, is my co-host Sean Ireland. Sean, how you doing?
Good, Dave. How are you? You're very busy yesterday. I saw.
I'm awake. I'm awake.
Good. Good.
It was a 16-hour day, but props to the guys. I have my freelancers. We covered all 6 state playoff games, state championships yesterday. We've never covered 6 games. I'm not sure, we may have done 5, but definitely number 6. And I couldn't have done it without a really, really good group of freelancers. So
yeah, Dave, I don't know who they are, but like I was following it, and make sure you give them the proper credit because they did a tremendous job.
Jeff Jacobs was at the volleyball. I was going to stay. I wanted to do both soccer games, but to get all 6 games, I did the St. Joe's girls soccer game at 10 in Hartford, and then after I wrote my story, drove to Weathersfield for the New Canaan field hockey game. I had John Nash come up for the Stanford boys soccer game, and then Dave Fierro did the first field hockey game, and David Whittam, and actually Chris Harrison, a New Canaan student who did all the photography, did 3 assignments. So that's a little shout out to my staff. And I'm going to take you, Sean, just a little bit outside your comfort zone, or you can help me ramble, because I'd be amiss if I don't talk about the state playoffs, non-football, to open up the show here.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm going to start with, because they're one of the 3 teams to win the title. They're the best team, I would say, by a little bit of a gap, that I covered all fall. And they, especially earlier this week, were involved in one of the best high school games I've ever covered. And that's the St. Joseph girls soccer team, which won its 3rd straight state title, 9th ever, and first at Double L after moving up this year with a 3-1 win over Notre Dame of Fairfield. Their three top scorers, Sarah Parker, Alexa Pino, Taylor Jenkins, each scored a goal. And Notre Dame of Fairfield, to its credit, gave St. Joseph a test. And St. Joe's defense doesn't get enough credit, because a lot of times they're not put in a position to have to help win a game, because the offense is dominating, teams dominating. Defense showed they're the equal to the offense, and hats off to the cadets. Sean, I know you haven't followed them real closely, but I know you were kind of taking a little bit of peek through social media this week at them.
Yo, listen, Dave, like I said the other week, if it's an FCIAC team, I don't care if it volleyball, like Darien girls, awesome job, Darien girls. All right. When an FCIAC team is in the finals, I don't care what sport it is. I make sure I at least get some knowledge of what's going on, and credit to your staff, Dave, that you hired. I was following those little video clips of the St. Joe's Notre Dame Fairfield game. So yeah, I followed it all along. I'd be a lot. I knew who did what, but I was very happy that they came away with the 3-1 win over my former boss, by the way. I'm pretty sure Wayne Moniz is the head coach at Notre Dame.
Yeah, well, that's right. Wayne, there was a Norwalk connection there with Wayne. I didn't get a chance to talk to him because I was busy doing interviews after. But you know what? And as a coach, you'll appreciate this. I've covered teams. St. Joe's had the most talent. Staples was real close, and we're going to get to them in a second. But St. Joe's had the best talent in the league. But you know what? It's a long season. You're dealing with high school students every day. Someday you're going to be flat. Someday you're going to play down to the level of competition. This is one of the few teams I've ever covered that didn't cheat anybody. They didn't cheat themselves, their teammates, their coach out of a minute this year, where they took things lightly. They made everybody else play up to their level, and nobody could, which is why they only tied a match and didn't lose. Just an ultra talented team, and Jack Nagara, their coach. I knew he was going to go there if they won, and said afterwards, and he's had some unbelievable teams, some unbelievable players, a whole bunch of Gatorade players of the state players of the year, Just Mazzo, Jenna Bike, Maddie Freed, a bunch of them. But he said this was the best team he's ever coached, and that, you know, for a coach that's won 9 state titles, and I can't remember how many FCIAC titles, to say his team, this is his best team, that's high praise.
Yeah. And you know, and I do not know the coach, but you know what you said, you know, the fact that they never played down and they were up for every game, that's credit to him, as well as not just the captains, but all the seniors that are on that team, you know, because, you know, inside pretty much any sport except football, you know, you might have that Tuesday night game where you're just, you know, where, you know,
You got
but
to test the next day, or you're up late studying the night before, and
right, right. So that's credit. That's credit to the coach. The whole. I'm assuming his whole staff, and the captains and the seniors as well, that they came out for every single game they played.
to get to the final, and this was, you know, I'd have to, you know, I'm sure at some point maybe there was a game as good, but maybe the best girls soccer game I've ever covered. In the conversation, I'd have to go back. I've got a lot of girls soccer games in the rearview mirror, but St. Joe's Staples on in the semifinal. The game was so good that I was at Norwalk for the Stanford High boys semifinal the next night, and the 2 referees who had done the girls game came down for the start of the boys game, and all they were doing was telling the refs on the game the stories of the girls game, which was a 4-3 St. Joseph win. They fell behind 2-0 early, almost too early for Staples' standpoint, and I don't think anybody at 2-0 thought St. Joe's was out of the game. Penalty kicks 35 seconds apart. Nobody can ever 35 seconds apart. You know, penalty kicks are easy to get video of, and I'm sitting there posting video of Alexa Pino making a penalty kick. I'm just getting ready to, you know, to tweet it. It takes a little bit of time, and I'm looking down for them. They're calling another penalty kick, and I'm trying to run down. I could only get down for like the Staples player's back, Natalie Chudowski's back, as she was taking the penalty kick.
Yeah.
And I posted on social media, and you got to find it. If not, the winning goal by Sarah Parker, who drilled a shot from 25 yards. That was as nice a game-winning shot as you'll ever see. And yeah, it was frustrating for Staples, but it was a tribute to Barry Beatty, their coach. And you've been in this position as a coach where your kids do everything they can. They've emptied the tank. They've played as well as they can, and they haven't won. And you just realize you have to tip your hat to the other team sometimes. He couldn't have asked any more out of his players that day, and they summoned St. Joe's to take it up a level, and St. Joseph did, to their credit. But it was just absolutely, it challenges you as a writer. You just, I kind of feel like, you know, I want my words to be the equal of the game, and I'm not a good enough writer for my words to equal what that game was all about.
Yeah. The only negative of that game, Dave, is that should have been the state finals. You
Yeah,
know, the fact that
absolutely.
you know the Staples girls, they deserve all the credit in the world. You know, when they jumped up 2-0, even my eyes went up a little bit. I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And then, you know what, as a coach, if your girls have played to the best of their ability and the other team wins, there's nothing you can do but just clap your hands and say, hey girls, I'm proud of you. You know, it's the worst feeling. But you know, there's nothing you could do. There's nothing you could do. It's not like somebody got a red card or somebody trips. You know what I mean? They played great. The other team just played a little
You
bit
can't
better.
even fault the defenses with
Right.
7 goals because it was just really, really good offensive play.
Yeah.
I'm sure Barry, you know, will now tell you a couple of defensive lapses that could have, you know, things could have done. But, you know, in the state of play, it was just it was just a great game. And you're right, Staples girls at least, and Notre Dame of Fairfield gave a strong showing yesterday, to its credit, but Yeah, that should have been a state final. More people would have seen it and more people would have talked about it. But hats off to St. Joseph. They're just, and they're really, because I covered them so much, you get to know the players a little bit, and they're a really good group of girls. They're the kind of players that you can't root against them because they're classy. They're not arrogant. They don't act like they're better than everybody else. They just prove it for 80 minutes on the game, and then it's what makes you enjoy doing this job when you have a week like you did with that team.
Yeah, and that's always good to hear, Dave, because I obviously I don't know any of the girls on that team, but whenever you hear, "Hey, we did it," they're very well talented, but they're also great kids. It just makes it so much better. We've even in our locker room, we've had some great kids, but maybe they weren't, maybe they're a little knuckleheadish, or you play against a team that's very, very good, and then you hear like things that the kids do, off the field, and you're like, man, like you want to root for them. So that's just so happy to hear, that they're great kids out off the field, so that's always good to hear.
Yeah, and credit to Staples too, because Barry and his girls, they didn't, it wasn't even, especially the seniors, they weren't all lying on the field, all crying or everything. I mean, they were disappointed, but their heads held high because they knew they had given everything they could, and they handled the loss with class. So it was a good week to cover girls soccer. It was a good week to cover boys soccer. We had another great story that ended not the ending that the Stanford boys soccer team wanted, but they did their school proud, getting to the state final yesterday for the first time since 1949. And like I said, I really wanted to cover that game, had to miss it to get to, so we could cover everything. But lost 1-0 to Hall, which was playing in its fourth final in the last 5 tournaments, second title. Scored in, excuse me, the first 4 minutes, and then Stanford just couldn't get a goal. But a great semifinal showing. I was at that game when they beat Greenwich 3-0, and a team that had a midseason slump and found its way and just got hot and just got its way to the FCIAC final, the state final. And I'm sure there's disappointment today that they didn't get one of the 2 titles, but you know what? They're the only one that played in both finals.
Yeah, yeah, and you know what? Like again, I saw the clips. Who's ever doing a video, and from what it sounded like Stanford outplayed them. It's just they couldn't get that goal. I saw a couple that the ball got past the goalie, but the defense was able to clear the line. I believe that's a soccer term.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, here we go.
I was following it too. I didn't see the game, and I was going to stream it, and I just wanted to. I had so much between writing and editing. I was afraid if I streamed it, I wouldn't be focusing. But yeah, they were a fun story. They were a fun team. Hats off to Mike Suma, and hats off to the Stanford student body. And Sean, since Norwalk is often been is a venue for FCIAC soccer and state soccer, you can appreciate it. Stanford in the semifinals in the FCIAC final may have brought more student fans than I can ever remember seeing by anybody at a soccer game in Norwalk, and you know how crowded the stands have been in the past.
Yeah, they definitely packed the house. I could say that. And the only comparable one, but it's not fair because we were the team in it. The only crowd that I saw bigger is when we played. We played somebody in the finals either the year before, and that place, I think we played Darien. We played Darien or Greenwich.
Okay.
That place was packed.
Yeah.
But for 2 visiting teams coming, they by far had the most fans that I've seen at Testa Field for a soccer game. Not even close. Not even close.
It was cool to Stanford again. They're not going to call themselves Cinderella, and I'm not going to call themselves Cinderella. Other than at the beginning of the season, you would have said Cinderella. No surprise after you saw what they did the end of the season that they got were able to maintain their level of play and do what they did. But it's kind of nice to see a program that hadn't been there in a while do what they did and have the whole school rally around them. So
Yeah, and it's going to sting for a bit. It's even going to sting for years to come. But like, at one point they're going to sit down and they're going to be like, guys, we were arguably the best boys soccer team in the history of Stanford High
yeah,
School. So like when their 10-year reunion when they come back together, or whatever it is, they can go. I mean, right? I mean,
yeah, they're
1949 or whatever it was.
yeah,
So yeah,
1949, and I think it was 1997, if I remember correctly, on the FCIAC final. So
yeah.
they tied New Canaan. So
Yes, so they could be very proud of their season, and like I said, whenever you could look back and be like, "Hey, we might be the best team ever to come out of this school for boys soccer." That they'll be proud. They're going to be proud.
I guess bounce around real quickly to field hockey. I guess the biggest surprise of the games yesterday was Staples beating Darien 3-1 in the Class L final. Staples had already beaten Darien had already beaten Staples twice before, including in the FCIAC final. Darien had not lost out of state this year. They're at a tournament earlier this year and lost the game. But credit to Staples, which it's hard beating a good team 3 times, and Darien learned that yesterday. And Staples, editing the story sounds like Ian Topsell, the coach, made some changes on the field that paid off. So congratulations, Staples' first title in 2019. It's been pretty much Darien and Staples in field hockey for the past decade or so, with a few other teams here and there. So credit to the Staples field hockey team.
Yeah, and it was good going in just knowing an FCIAC team was guaranteed a state championship. When I saw the final score, I was a little shocked myself because all you hear is Darien, 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 rightfully so. So when I saw that score, I was a little shocked myself. But good job, Lady Wreckers.
And then I never thought I'd talk about this game for 2 or 3 minutes, but this is where, as a sports writer, you love finding great stories. So I had thought I was not going to be able to cover the New Canaan field hockey game, and like the light went off in my head 7 o'clock on Friday night, how I could pull it off. And so I texted a couple of writers to see if we can move things around. I texted the state about credentials, and figured out how we could get there. And so now I got to look over about New Canaan field hockey, which I'll admit I knew virtually nothing of. I knew a little bit about it. They started the season 0-5. They lost all quality losses to the best teams in the FCIAC and non-league, and then they got hot. And other than a loss in the FCIAC playoffs, and I think one other loss, they got hot, and then they played the number 1 seed, which was unbeaten yesterday. They outshot them 31-3, and they couldn't get a goal. I put with maybe 1 or 2 of the girls soccer players. This goalie for hand just literally stood on her feet. Stood on her head. You talk about the hot goalie that stops a team. New Canaan did everything but score, and then they go to overtime. In overtime, they play 7-on-7, and New Canaan gets possession first, and their best player and biggest threat, Izzy Shue, goes down. She takes a bullet, boom, save, rebound, save, and then the hand gets the momentum and goes the other way, and they get his corner, and off a scramble they get a goal. So it was both a cruel ending, and that New Canaan dominated the game and didn't get to win, but it's also a credit to hand I'm blanking on. I don't know how to pronounce the goalie's name correctly. I should have put it down here. I'm not prepared, but shout out to her, because it was just unbelievable. It's like, for anybody that watches a sport or a hot goalie, NHL playoffs, anything where a goalie carries the team, that's what the hand goalie did. And she's the only reason New Canaan's not celebrating going from 0-5 to state champion yesterday.
Yeah, Dave, I can't. The only thing I saw that I saw a couple of the tweets, the video tweets that your helper put out there, and it did look like New Canaan. Every video that I saw, it was New Canaan shooting, New Canaan shooting, New Canaan shooting. Unfortunately, the last video was that corner where the New Canaan's goalie made a save or something. The ball's right there, and the girl just
the ball went off a defender and who played a good game. And you know what? In a scramble like that,
yeah,
anything can happen. It's not like you can say, you're in a scramble and everybody's swinging at the ball and you just don't know what's going to happen. It wasn't anything that New Canaan did poorly to allow the goal, but
right.
And like I said, I never thought 24 hours ago I would be spending more than 30 seconds talking about the New Canaan field hockey team. But you know what? Sometimes you find great stories out of, it was a good story. How great a story would it have been if they had gone from 0-5 to a state champion?
Yeah, that would have been sweet. That would have been nice.
Shout out to Coach Megan Cunningham and her girls. And then over at the volleyball, Darien, I hate taking a strong program for granted, but shout out to Lori LaRusso on another state championship, another perfect season. Darien goes back to back 25-0, and it was a coronation last night, and credit to them, and it says something about the level that program's been at. It other teams caught up to them for a few years there, and now Darien's back to being Darien, and the fact that everybody just expects them to win is a credit to the kind of program that Lori LaRusso has had for 40 years there. And Darien just dominated, and pretty much dominated from beginning to end this year.
Yeah, and Dave, now that we're talking about it, I mean, Darien girls volleyball, Darien field hockey, like
Darien won the Class L swimming earlier.
Right? They won the swimming championship.
State Open's about to start in a half hour as we're taping.
Yeah, man, that's got to be
Darien football, which we'll get to in a little bit. It's been Darien sports programs is we're not breaking news here.
Right,
it's good as anybody in the FCIAC and the state.
Absolutely. And I still say boys, girls, the FCIAC is the best conference, in the state for every sport. Sorry.
And then, quickly wrapping it up with the St. Joseph volleyball team, which lost a tough 5-set match. And you always find one team in the FCIAC that gets hot and plays well because of the strength of schedule it had during the regular season. And this year was the St. Joseph volleyball team, which was a solid, unspectacular team in the FCIAC, got to the playoffs, lost, I believe, to West Hill in the first round, and then caught fire in the state playoffs, played really well, and lost a tough 5-set match to Farmington yesterday. And I know Erin Lovett had a big match for them, and I'll be talking about her soon because she's one of the top players on the St. Joseph basketball team. But shout out to Coach Jeff Babineau and his cadets for making the run to the state final, and two St. Joseph girls teams playing for state championships.
Yeah. Good job to that program as well.
Okay, so
we got one more team that never loses. Okay. The Greenwich girls swim team.
Yeah,
Greenwich girls, they never lose.
And they're swimming. They're getting ready to swim. I have Jeff Jacobs there right now, but yeah, the shout out. I think as you're listening to this, they're probably going to be celebrating a state championship. They've had an unbelievable season. My guess is that Ridgefield is going to finish second or very high up, and and Darienne's going to do well. I know New Canaan. I think New Canaan's got. I think Emma Kelly's her name, a diver. So yeah, I only didn't bring them up because they're swimming now, and I don't want to do Dewey over Truman
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
But Greenwich, if you did win, congratulations. We'll give you an official shout out next weekend.
Sounds good.
So Sean, why don't we take a break here? That's the thanks for indulging me with I had to talk state playoffs, but we're
Absolutely.
gonna take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk football, Thanksgiving, and state playoffs. We'll be right back. We're back, and again, congratulations to all the state champions, and from soccer and volleyball and field hockey. We're back to football, and it's Thanksgiving, which means teams across the state get their Super Bowls. And in the FCIAC, it's a whole bunch of good rivalry games, and kind of true to form with the way the season's gone as a whole. There's not a lot of mystery, which is good and bad. Good in that we already know that we're gonna have. Right now, we know we have 5, probably 6, and possibly 7 teams that are going to be in the state playoffs, which is kind of a testament to the league, and a testament to the state loving to let as many teams as possible play in the playoffs. That's a conversation for another day, but there are no games where there's only one game that's directly win and in, and that's going to be Stanford against West Hill. And I think we're probably asking a little too much of West Hill in that game to pull the upset. The last team to enter this weekend is Darien. Now is going to be in Class L, and with a win over New Canaan now could get a home game. So on the one hand, it makes it fun when you had a game like last year where a team has to win to get in. It adds an air of mystery to the game. But on the other hand, I'd rather see Darien in and know that we're going to have them there, and get as many FCIAC teams as possible. So, Sean, it looks like it's going to be a lot of battles for seeding, which is of importance. I don't want to minimize that at all.
Yeah. I mean, we know what teams are in for the most part. Okay. Like you said, Stanford has to win. St. Joe's has an outside shot. But seeding is important. You definitely want to have a home game. You don't want to travel to 2 hours up 95, in traffic. You'd rather have them come down to you. So these games, even though they're already in, these games are important, because you'd rather be playing at home than somewhere that you have no idea what their facilities are, what their environment is, but where you're at. So, these games are important.
None more so than in Class L, where we've got Greenwich playing Staples. And both teams are in. Both teams are going to have first round home games. Where this game is really, really important is West Haven is also going to have a first round home game. Those 3 teams are going to be in the top 4. You do not want to have to be playing one of the others in the semifinals.
Right.
I don't see, you know what? I'll never say never, but it'd be a surprise if one of the other teams outside of those 3 won the title, and a much easier path to the state final if you have if you can avoid playing that other team until the final, hopefully.
Absolutely. Like we said a couple of weeks ago, Dave, I think the Double L is a 3-horse race between Greenwich, Staples, and West Haven. If somebody else, not those 3, good for you, great for you guys, but I don't see anybody knocking off those guys.
So again, I mean, it's now the realm of possibility. This Greenwich Staples we're going to be seeing for the first of 2 times, maybe as much as like 9 days. The this Sunday after it's such a blur, but 2 weeks
Yeah.
from Sunday, 2 weeks from today. So that's a big game. We've got two of the best teams in the state. It's an exciting game. It's a little luster lost for me only because they're playing so close to the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a huge game, and in terms of the best teams playing each other, it's the number one game of interest Thursday.
Yeah, we said this before the show started. If this game was week 6, you know, it would be great. I mean, it's still a great game. It's when you have these two teams playing, but when they both know they secured a home game, they both know they're in states, you know. Now, I'm not talking about Greenwich and Staples. I'm talking to people outside that bubble. It loses a lot of it. Not a lot. It loses a little bit of its luster.
I'm more pumped up for Greenwich Staples week 6. If you tell
Yeah.
me, the beginning of the year and how things will play out, I care more. I'm more pumped up week 6 than I am Thanksgiving.
Right. Now again, like if one of these two teams need to win to get in, that's different. They're both in.
Right.
They both have a home game. So like again, the people in Westport, the people in Greenwich, they're fired up. They're going to be excited. But like the people outside, it's kind of like, oh, okay, it is what it is.
Yep, I know. I've talked to a couple of people I've run into just from covering Greenwich, and there's some out there. There's a lot of motivation.
Oh, of course there is.
I mean, both sides are pumped up. I know there's some other stuff. Greenwich is pretty pumped up from some stuff that I guess happened last year. But it's like I said, the biggest thing about this game is avoid West Haven or having to play each other again in the semifinals.
Right. Correct.
So we'll just have to wait and see how the point system plays out there, and then Stanford will also be there. I mean, it's not outside possibility. We could be looking at Stanford playing Greenwich or Staples in the first round.
Yeah, I hope that's not the case. I just it could be anybody. Like let them play West Haven, let them play Southington. It's not because I don't.
Let the FCIAC teams play let them both play in the state final where we know we're going to get somebody.
Right.
Somebody, and it's just like it happens more in other sports in the FCIAC. It's not a state tournament field as much when you're playing teams you've already played.
Right.
Or you're familiar with.
And we're not just saying it because like I'm sure like if West Haven was scheduled to play Xavier in round 1, they'd be like, no, let us play an FCIAC team. So it's not just the FCIAC saying it. Every conference says the same thing. Like let's go out and play somebody that we don't know. That's what the state tournament's about. Let's play people that we don't know.
And then we go to Class L, and there's no better game. Greenwich Staples is huge, but in terms of tradition, the pageantry, shall we say, if we can get like Rose Bowlish here, there's no place better to be than the Turkey Bowl in New Canaan this year. But Darien, New Canaan, the best rivalry in the state, and an important game in terms of playoff positioning. Again, New Canaan is second right now. It's too hard to figure everything out. But what if Darien beat New Canaan and end up being like the 4-5 game or
that'd be
I don't think that would I don't know. I haven't figured things out. I just know Darien and New Canaan are in, but an important game that New Canaan could finish number 1 in L with the win, and Darien would love to be able to jump up and get a home game if possible.
Yeah, that's always a big game. Like when you talk about rivals, there's always those competitive rivals, and then there's those rivals that like they just don't like each other. And Darien, New Canaan, they just don't like each other. So that's what adds to the rival even more.
Well, they don't like each other until after they're still. Well, you know what? It depends. Different years, different instances.
Yeah, I was gonna say, no, I'm pretty sure. Unless it's changed, but yeah, Darien would love to get a win because even though they really don't have that signature win this year. I'm not counting that North Haven as a signature win because it was a forfeit. There's still a few doubters out there. Like, are they the Darien that they used to be? And they can prove everybody wrong. Win on Thursday.
This is going to be, I didn't even say this, Thanksgiving. This is going to be the first time. I'm trying to remember the last Thanksgiving I was not at a football game, not present at a football game. And probably the first time in over 20 years, Darien, New Canaan, but I'm getting a procedure on my back at ONS the day before, and I was told I could work, but it would be best to stay off my feet. I'm gonna be kind of standing on the turf is why I'm having this haven't done. So and because I want to, but I need to get it done as quickly as possible because I may need to have it done once or twice more. So the bottom line is I'm not going to be at the Turkey Bowl. I'm going to be watching the stream of the game, which sucks.
Yeah.
The game, like I said, because I know so many people there, it's as much social as it is work, and it's not going to be the same watching it from home.
Yeah. Where is the game this year?
It's at New Canaan.
Okay, that's better. They have a better facility. Like
New Canaan's a better facility for handling large crowds of people.
Absolutely. Darien's facility is very nice.
Oh yeah, Darien's facility is beautiful, but it's not as conducive to large crowds and have the walkways around or even parking and all that kind of stuff. So so we're gonna have Darien, New Canaan.
Well, the other thing, we were talking about a double L too. This is big too because you don't want to see Maloney in the semifinals. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of the game you don't. So seeding is very big on this one too. You don't want to see, if we're playing Maloney, we want to play them in the finals.
Yeah, so, I mean, Greenwich already can tell those teams you don't want to see Maloney in,
absolutely
until you absolutely have to. So that would be the team. Naugatuck is undefeated. They're going to play Ansonia, so we'll see.
Yep. I'm
not sure if Naugatuck is more a product of their schedule than how good they are. Newtown is good, but we'll see. But you're right, Maloney would be the one team. But as weak as double L is really, really strong. And getting to really, really strong too. And the team we can talk about in the current and really have to give our tip of the hats to is Wilton, which is the one team that played this weekend. And you know what? We talked about this last week. It stinks that they don't have a Thanksgiving game, but in terms of setting yourself up to do well in the state playoffs, Wilton gets to play Shelton, goes out and beats Shelton at home. So they're sitting at number 2 right now. They're gonna have a first round home game. They're gonna be well rested, and they're gonna have had a really, really good tune-up game to get ready for the state playoffs. So what hurts for not having a holiday game, I think Wilton's gonna be set up in a really, really difficult class to succeed, maybe more so than some of the other teams.
Yeah, Wilton, and I've been on Wilton's bandwagon for a long time now. Whenever they play Norwalk, and I know Norwalk's not the strongest, but like just watching them play, I'm like, this team is legit. So like, there are a lot of benefits from it. One, the extended rest they get. 2, they can physically go. All right, you're gonna go to Massac. EJ, you go to Guilford, you go to you can send people out to actually go physically see the team you might be playing. And, you can watch them on film, but you want to see how big they are. Right. You want to see, are they fast? How do they do this? So, they have an advantage. So, but it's credit to them. You look at their schedule, the teams they played, they are a top 10 team in the state, Dave. They are.
I think I voted them 11th.
Oh, Dave, you're killing me.
I voted them 11th.
You're killing me.
I didn't know who to bump them up over. It's kind of like it gets to a certain point. And there's, they're right there. I think I voted them 11th because I didn't know who I had voted ahead of them that I should bump down.
Right, right.
more than anything. And you know what? I probably, Wilton against Naugatuck. You know what? On a neutral field, I
Mhm.
probably should be picking Wilton over them, but
Yeah.
Naugatuck's undefeated.
Yeah.
You know what? Let's put it this way: you tell me they're a top 10 team, I'm not gonna make an argument saying you're wrong, because
Yeah.
I've been on Wilton's bandwagon from day one. So go
Yeah.
back and watch all these podcasts and everything I've written. I've been on the Wilton bandwagon since the beginning of the season. So they're going to be a fun watch. They're
Yeah.
a really really difficult division, but you know what? They're a really good team. So
Yeah.
and then let's finish off. So that's 6 teams I'm going to have to worry about, and then probably the team with a long shot is St. Joseph in Class M, which needs to win and then needs to jump over a few teams, and is not guaranteed to win by any means against Trumbull, which
Right.
I think in Trumbull's eyes has had a disappointing season from what they hoped. I know injuries have been part of the story, and I'm sure Mars is going to be talking all week. Has been talking about, you know what, we didn't do what we wanted to do, but it'd be nice if we said, we beat St. Joe's.
Yeah, yeah, that's another big rival too. Two schools in the same town. Mars will be the first one to tell you that this season probably did not go as they planned or as they hoped, I should say. But the season can be somewhat salvageable. One, if you beat St. Joe's, and two, if you beat them, and that ends up being the win that knocks St. Joe's out. So Mars will have his team ready. They'll be fired up. Joe will have his team ready. They'll be fired up. That's going to be a good one.
But we'll have a lot more to talk about with the football after. We'll see. Maybe we'll even bump up. We're gonna we'll see, maybe throwing in an extra podcast or two during the playoffs, and maybe try to even do day after games and preview games and bump up if all works out our podcast coverage of it. But it'll be, like I said, this Thanksgiving is more about watching some good football, and then we really rev things up with the state playoffs where we'll have 6 or 7 teams. We may have some first round meetings between two. I hope not. But we'll have a lot to talk about here as we hit the fall season home stretch. So Sean,
Yeah. Well, thank God. You know what, Dave? Just how much better would it be if all these games were played on Columbus Day?
Columbus Day, yeah, the
Oh, that
Columbus
would be.
Day.
This would be great. Get out of here. All right, well, we got to say that's a postseason one that we're.
Well, I've already we're gonna do. We'll find the right time, and I don't know if it may at this point the right time may be after the season.
Yeah,
to
I think
do
so
a
too.
podcast and not take away from the state playoff.
Yeah.
But yeah, the pageantry of Columbus Day, the 10,000 people who have been waiting, who are going to be at the Darien New Canaan game on Columbus Day and have been waiting out to come out on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, absolutely.
But are you going to be at Norwalk, McMahon?
Oh, I'll be there.
Okay.
I will be there.
It's on McMahon, right?
No, this is Dave Little's
Oh, it's the final game. It's the final
game at Testa. Yeah,
that's right. I saw Doug at Norwalk. I forgot that it's the final go round. So yeah, the next time you stand on Testa, you'll be inside the high school.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, man.
Well, I'd be hopefully for all these other teams, the teams in Fairfield, Ridgefield, and Danbury, Thanksgiving Eve, and for all these other schools that aren't good, we haven't talked about because they're not going to be playing after Thursday. It's their Super Bowl, so it's going to be a lot of fun. Unfortunately for me, I'm going to be watching it here from home from the command center. But and then look forward to getting back at the games. And Sean, we'll have a lot more to talk about next Sunday. So thanks a lot again, and have a good Thanksgiving. And we'll do this soon.
Absolutely can't wait. Thanks. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there.
Yep. Have a happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Thanks a lot. This is the Ruden Report podcast. Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Cooper Boardman. And we're all football next week. Enjoy the holiday, and we'll see you soon.